Sometimes in life, no matter how hard we try, things just don't go the way we wish. We pray earnestly, put all our faith in the hope that good things will come, and wait patiently. But time passes, and everything remains silent. No sign that a miracle is on its way. In those moments, feelings of disappointment, loneliness, and despair can easily overwhelm our hearts. We begin to doubt, not only ourselves, but also the presence of hope and goodness. Is anyone really listening? Do these prayers even matter? Questions like these creep into our minds, weighing heavily on our souls. But perhaps what we long for hasn't come, not because it doesn't exist, but because it is quietly being prepared. Sometimes silence is part of a bigger plan, where every challenge and every waiting period is shaping us into stronger beings. Even when it seems nothing is changing, be patient. Life may not always give us what we want right away, but it could be leading us to something better than we ever imagined. There are moments when bad things happen and it feels like every door has slammed shut. Failures, losses, heartbreak, or adversity can bring us to our knees, making us feel as if the world has turned its back. But if we pause for a moment and look a little deeper, we might realize that behind those trials lies a greater plan unfolding silently. What we thought was a disaster could be a turning point towards something better. A closed door is not the end. It could be the beginning of a new journey, one where we grow, become stronger, and gain wisdom. Life doesn't always go the way we want, but there's always a reason behind everything that happens. Storms don't come to destroy us, they come to cleanse us and guide us down a different path. One we may have never considered, but one that may be far better than what we've lost. The question is, do we have enough faith to keep going, even when we can't yet see the light at the end of the tunnel? Because sometimes it is in the darkness that we learn how to see the light within ourselves. One day, a large ship was caught in a violent storm in the middle of the ocean. The waves crashed and tore everything apart, and in a matter of moments, the ship sank to the bottom of the sea, taking with it all of its passengers. Amid that tragic scene, only one man miraculously survived. It was as if fate had chosen something special for him. While unconscious, his body drifted to a deserted island, completely uninhabited by any soul. When he woke up, he found himself lying on the sand, surrounded only by the vast ocean and dense jungle, with no sign of life or rescue. He was alone. No food, no water, no one to talk to or help him. But in that very moment, he began his journey of survival, not just against nature, but against the fear and despair within himself. Cut off from the world, he had to learn to accept and face a harsh truth. Everyone else was gone. Only he remained. And sometimes survival is not a blessing, but a test, a calling from life to discover a strength we never knew we had. He didn't know why he was still alive, but it was the beginning of a journey destiny had chosen for him. After realizing he was the sole survivor stranded on a deserted island, he looked up in desperation at the vast blue sky and prayed with all his heart. Each day he hoped to see a ship, a plane, or any sign that someone was coming to rescue him. But all that answered his earnest prayers was an oppressive silence. No sails, no sounds, only the constant crashing of waves and the whistling of wind through the trees. Slowly, his faith began to falter. His prayers became faint whispers, then faded away altogether. He no longer waited for a miracle, having waited too long in vain. Instead, he began to adapt. With the little strength he had left and driven by an instinct to survive, he quietly gathered branches, dry leaves, and whatever nature offered to build a small hut for shelter. He picked coconuts, searched for water, and learned how to fish to feed himself. With no one left to rely on, he had no choice but to become his own source of strength. In the darkness of despair, he began to kindle a new light, the will to live, and an extraordinary ability to adapt that he had never discovered before. After nearly 20 days of resilient survival on the deserted island, he had built a small hut from branches and dry leaves, the only shelter protecting him from storms and loneliness in the wild. Though life was harsh, he found some comfort in the home he had made with his own hands. But tragedy struck once again. One afternoon, returning from gathering coconuts, he was stunned to find his hut engulfed in flames. Thick black smoke rose high into the sky, taking with it all the efforts he had poured into surviving. Everything was gone. The one safe place he had was now reduced to ashes. Overcome with grief, he collapsed, looked up at the sky, and wept bitterly. "Dear God," I prayed. "I waited. This hut was all I had left, and you took it too. Why are you so cruel? Why do you leave me alone and take away my last hope?" That night he cried and cursed the heavens, feeling utterly abandoned. The fire didn't just consume his shelter, it consumed the fragile faith that still lingered within him. After a long, sleepless night of despair, he eventually drifted off in exhaustion and sorrow. His mind was still haunted by the image of his burning hut, the crackling of flames, and the overwhelming sense of loss. But the next morning, a loud noise from afar startled him awake. Rubbing his eyes, he thought he was dreaming. A large ship was slowly approaching the island. Before he could grasp what was happening, he ran to the beach, waving frantically, tears streaming down his face. After so many days in isolation, finally, another human being had seen him. As he was pulled aboard the ship, he trembled with emotion and asked the captain, "How did you know I was here?" The captain smiled and replied, "We saw smoke rising from the island yesterday. The ocean is vast. If it weren't for that smoke, we would have passed by without knowing anyone needed help." At that moment, the man was stunned. The fire that destroyed his hut had become the very signal that saved his life. What seemed like the worst disaster turned out to be the miracle that rescued him. Sitting on the ship as it sailed away from the desolate island, he quietly looked back at the place where his days of solitude and hardship had passed. The memory of the fire still lingered in his heart, but this time the emotion was not anger or despair. Instead, it was a deep silence filled with understanding. Now he realized that the fire, which had seemed so destructive, was actually the tool of his salvation. If the hut hadn't burned, there would have been no smoke. Without the smoke, the ship would never have stopped. And if the ship hadn't come, he would still be lost in loneliness and hopelessness. In that moment, he understood something profound. Everything that happens has meaning. He had blamed God, lamented his loss, not knowing that those very losses were paving the way to something better. He whispered a quiet prayer of thanks and asked for forgiveness for his doubts. That lesson etched itself deeply into his heart, that God's plans always transcend the small understanding of man. What seems like disaster may actually be the invisible hand guiding us toward the light. In life's journey, everyone will encounter moments that seem hopeless, unfinished dreams, unanswered prayers, and plans that collapse in an instant. We ask ourselves why goodness seems so elusive, why we have to suffer so much. But it's in those darkest times that we must remember something important. God has never forgotten us. He is quietly at work, preparing something better for the right time. Each challenge is not the end, but part of a greater plan we have yet to see. Like the man on the deserted island, we may not understand why bad things happen. But if we hold on to faith, we'll come to realize that what seemed like loss was actually the beginning of rescue, a new life. Don't despair when every door seems to close, because maybe another is quietly opening behind you. Keep believing. Keep moving forward. God always knows what is best for us, and He will act at just the right time, never too early, never too late. Life doesn't always unfold the way we want it to. There will be moments when everything seems to fall apart, opportunities disappear, plans fall through, doors close right before our eyes. In those moments, hope can easily be swept away and our hearts may want to give up. But the truth is, no door closes without another one quietly opening. What matters is that we learn to trust, to wait, and to keep moving forward with patience. Every failure, every wound, every upheaval can be the catalyst for a new beginning. Sometimes what we think is a loss is actually a chance to discover something greater. Like the fire that destroyed the hut but turned out to be a signal for rescue, life is full of events that don't go our way, but go exactly as the one who has designed a better path for us intends. So, never lose hope. Believe that no matter how difficult the present may seem, the future still holds beautiful things waiting for you. Stay strong, because every closed door is a sign that a new beginning is near. You are watching the video on YouTube Tales Unfold.